I love dancing and martial arts and playing every sport I have time for. I love teaching these activities as well. I grew up doing these activities, but I couldn't always do them. 6 years ago, I fell 3 floors and broke my back. Yeah, I know. I felt the same way. The point is, though, when this happened, it gave me juvenile arthritis. It gave me more joint problems than I can remember, and it gave me chronic pain. I lost all my muscles. I had to learn to walk again. I was bedridden. It took away my confidence and my self-esteem, things that I had developed through martial arts and sports. I felt alone. I felt like I was the only person in the world suffering these issues. Well, I didn't know anyone else suffering these issues. But soon I realized I wasn't alone. About 1 in 10 people have a physical impairment that they have to deal with every day of their lives. How many people do you know have pain, fatigue, or a slight weakness in one of their joints? I'm sure most of those people are close to you, which is why you can remember them on the spot. I have that issue as well. A lot of people lose their dexterity and strength as they grow older, and I know that given my issues, even if I live to a ripe old age, it definitely won't be a healthy one. And so I've decided to try fixing that. And I'd like to take you through that adventure with me. I know that as I grow older, I'm going to need some assistance. I know we all are. And I know that sometimes a lot of us need that assistance right now. You know, it stupefies me that we have the technology to send a person to space, but we don't have the technology to help that person lift a box. I mean, how does that work? I've decided to try dealing with that. I know that I want to build an assistive device. I want to build a device that helps people move on those days when everything's aching. I want to give people a little extra strength. But to build a truly assistive device, it needs to work like your muscles. It needs to extend your muscles. But that means it needs to be silent, so it's not buzzing at innocent bystanders. It needs to be lightweight. It needs to be energy efficient so that you're not carrying around a huge battery pack. It needs to be flexible so it moves with you. The current technology, though, while it is quite amazing, it's not quite there yet. It's pretty obvious. It's not really out of sight. It's rigid, mechanical. It has moving parts, so it can never be truly silent or energy efficient. But there is a solution. Electroactive polymers are a new and upcoming field. Electroactive polymers are polymers, so they're lightweight, strong, and flexible, just like nylons or plastic. And they're electroactive, which means when you put them in an electric field, they act or move or actuate. So they move without moving parts, just like your muscles. In fact, there's a specific field, there's a specific type of electroactive polymers called dielectric elastomer actuators, or DEAs, that are capable of producing about double the amount of force that your muscles produce at the same amount of extension or actuation. But now that we have a technology that we know we can use to build an assistive device, let's get back to building that, eh? Notice the elbow. The elbow is the easiest joint in the body to work with because we're very familiar with it and it's easily accessible. Notice that as the forearm moves up, the bicep contracts to help lift the forearm. And when the forearm needs to be lowered, the tricep contracts. So intuitively, the best device to make to help assist your forearm is to have something that runs along the length of your bicep and your tricep and attaches to your forearm and helps you lift it or move it up and down as you're moving your arm, right? But to be able to truly assist you, it needs to know when you're lifting your arm. And that's now things are starting to get a little complex. And that's when I realized I can't pull this off on my own. I need a team. And the best way to get a team together is to find a bunch of people that are smarter than you. So that's what I did. We called our project Actuation Technology for the External Assistance of Muscles. So yes, I assembled the A-team. Well, I haven't even told you what we did yet. We brainstormed and we came up with the plan. We decided that since this is a completely new system, it hasn't been done before, we would build a proof of concept for a working armband. So we would build a system that wasn't a complete armband, but it would have the exact same functionality. It would sense the electromyographic signals passing through your muscles. So it would sense the electrical signals that pass through your bicep when you're trying to flex. And it would interpret those signals. It would decide what to do, whether to move the armband or not. And if it wanted to move the armband, it would send that control signal to actuators that would actually move. They would actually actuate. This system, because of the nature of the system, it would work exactly the way an armband would work, proving that we could actually build an armband. The problem with a system like this, though, sorry, not a problem, one of the big challenges is the actuators themselves. Electroactive polymers are a very new field. And finding actuators that are flexible, strong, and produce significant actuation, well, you can't. And so we had to build our own. After a little bit of exploring, we settled in on dielectric elastomer actuators, which are a type of electroactive polymers. Dielectric elastomer actuators, or DEAs, are a pretty simple concept. You take two metal sheets. I got to watch out about this remote. You take two metal sheets at a certain separation from each other, and you fill that separation with a dielectric elastomer, so a viscoelastic polymer of some sort. And you apply a voltage on either sheet. And as you apply that voltage, the sheets attract each other and compress or actuate. Now, if that elastomer that you have in between is truly elastic, when you take away that voltage, the material, the structure, sorry, will try to regain its original dimensions. So it'll compress and it'll go back. And that's what we're looking for in our actuators. We built our actuators, and as you see over there, they're pretty small. And so we decided to measure this level of actuation by placing a mirror on the actuator and shining a laser light off of that mirror. So as the actuator compresses, the angle of the mirror changes, and the laser dot gets deflected. And that worked pretty well. But now we had to stack up our actuators. Now, you would think the most intuitive way of stacking up a bunch of opposite charges is to alternate them, right? And that's exactly what we did. To start off with, we took metal sheets and alternated them. So positive, negative voltages with the ends leading out on either side. And we clamped down these ends, filled them with dielectric elastomer in between. And as you apply a voltage difference across them, the entire structure attracts itself to itself and compresses or actuates. And that worked pretty well. But you don't want a structure like that in your armband because there's just too much wiring. Hey, springs are natural actuators, aren't they? They're made to compress and expand. That's the second design we came up with. We decided to take two springs, wind them one into the other, and apply a voltage across the ends. So that the entire structure, when you apply that voltage, the springs attract each other and they compress. Now, the problem with that, though, is to be able to attract two things to each other, you need somewhat of a surface area. The more surface area, the more attraction you have. And fabricating flat, soft springs like that is not the easiest task. So we decided to incorporate both those designs into a new design that we call accordions. You take two metal strips, assume you're going to put a positive voltage on one and negative voltage on the other. You put them in 90 degrees to each other, or right angles, and you just fold them. Now, these actuators, you make sure they don't touch. You fill them with dielectric elastomer. And these actuators have quite a large overlapping surface area. They're really easy to fabricate. As you can see, I almost made one right now. And they're really efficient. They're really neatly stacked up. So think 5 years of an engineering degree, and I end up back in preschool. Those actuators worked well, though. But we need a way to control them. And so we decided to use an Android phone. Why Android? It's customizable. It's easy to use. Android phones are really fast. Yes, they are. And it's a technology that we could rely on because it's a technology that builds itself. So by relying on it, we don't actually have to do any work ourselves. So they're easy to use. like any tech-savvy inventor would do, we built an app. The app has 4 main features. Through the muscle mouse, it can sense the electromyographic signals passing through your bicep through its microphone input. It interprets those signals, decide whether it wants to actuate or not, and then sends that control voltage, if it does want to actuate, to the actuators through its headphone jack. You can also record and replay a series of movements. Just to have complete control over the actuators, we can also turn our actuators manually on and off to see what they're doing for testing purposes. And once this is in an entire armband, the proximity sensor allows us to sense the distance between our wrist and shoulder to determine the level of actuation, just for a good feedback mechanism. And now that we know how the entire system works, wouldn't it be nice to see it working? Yes, it would. So that's the actuator and the mirror resting on it. The actuators are driven by an actuation circuit. A little messy, that's electronics for you. It's controlled by the app on my phone, and that's the muscle sensor. The muscle sensor is connected to my bicep. And as I flex, you see the dot moving ever so slightly because the actuation is ever so slight. I've always wanted to flex on stage. Now, as you probably realize, we've had to build or at least modify all the technology we needed to make the system work. So much so that we got a little recognition in the process. We ended up publishing a paper in a student journal, but it is peer-reviewed for the scientists out there. But where do we go from here? We still need to achieve macroscopic actuation. Once we achieve that macroscopic actuation, when we put that in an armband, some actuators would need to compress, and others would need to expand for the same motion. So the control loop and actuation circuit would need to be able to deal with that. Now, this system can be used by patients going through rehab and learning to regain their muscle strength, like I did, to physically visualize their movements using a device that works very similar to their own muscles. We could also use the replay feature to record and replay a series of movements and detect movement patterns in patients. Because of the simplistic interaction that this device has with our own bodies, we could technically use it for any joint in the body. So besides sensing my bicep, I could use it to sense my thigh muscles and move my leg below my knee. Or I could use it to sense my forearm muscles and move my wrist. The muscle sensor already works for those 2 muscles, for those who are wondering. We could use it to sense any body, any joint in the human body. We could use it to help any joint in the human body. So let's look a little bit at the future. Imagine an armband. That armband you could strap around your arm, and it would assist you in your day-to-day tasks. More specifically, it would assist your bicep and tricep in moving your forearm at the elbow. You could set it to a negative feedback mode so that it resists that motion instead, and so it gives you strength training for those athletes out there. Now, because of the millisecond response time of these actuators, you could also use that negative feedback mode to stabilize your arms. So if my arms are really shaky, I could use that to help my dexterity or give me fine motor control. Now, if I extend that to every joint in the human body, things start to get really interesting. You remember that little replay function we had on the app? What if we use that? What if we use that to save and store movement information just like normal files and be able to share them and send them to other people? What if we used that function specifically? Imagine a day in your future. Imagine a day where you wake up and you think, I think I want to learn a new dance move today. So you go onto Google, you look at web, images, videos, and maps, and you see a tab called Movements. You click on that, you scroll through a bunch of movements, and you find a dance move that you really like, a technique that you really like. So you download it to your joint bands, and your joint bands help you replicate that move exactly. Thank you. I practiced that more than the speech. Do you realize that ancient activities like dance, martial arts, sports, playing a musical instrument are all still in this day and age mainly passed on by word of mouth? Now, what does that mean? That means when I'm trying to learn one of these activities like I have in the past, it limits me to a few really key factors. I need a teacher in the same city as I am. I need a teacher that's willing to teach me and available in the same time slot as I am. I need a teacher that's able to teach, even if that teacher can't necessarily do. And I need to be able to afford that teacher's lessons, which I don't know about you, but I'm running on a student budget here. But this device could hopefully help you bypass all of that. Using this device, we could sync joint bands independent of location and have students copy their teachers' moves exactly from across the world. I could learn from my teachers in Mississauga or Berlin without having to go there anymore. We could record and replay series of patterns and share them or sell them just like songs. Because this device speaks directly to your muscles and to your joints, it would bypass that step where you're trying to learn a new move and you get stuck. And instead, it would coax you through that move every single time till your muscle memory kicks in. So it would give you accelerated physical learning. Imagine Michael Jordan decided to take a three-point shot and record that on his armband, and he stored it and uploaded it. And I got that information. I could learn to shoot exactly like Michael Jordan using his exact technique. And I would learn that from Michael Jordan for $1. Hey, if Michael Jackson had a footband, I would be doing the moonwalk all over this stage right now. The point is, this would push physical teaching to a whole new level. It doesn't matter whether you're learning to walk or a professional speaker or a professional athlete trying to go from silver to gold. I believe that this technology can help you achieve those dreams. And that is my dream. Thank you.